Welcome to Dark Loops Productions She-Hulking, a podcast for discussing the Marvel series She-Hulk, Attorney at Law. I'm Dr. Scott Jordan, aka Zombie Scotty, cognitive psychologist, philosopher at Illinois State University.
I'm Dr. Shelly Clevenger. I'm the chair and professor at Sam Houston State University for the Department of Victim Studies.
And tonight we come together to discuss the season finale, episode 9, Whose Show Is This? Joining us this evening in the conversation are some special friends. Dr. Travis Langley, please tell the audience a little something about who you are, what you do, and how you feel about the show.
I am Dr. Travis Langley, distinguished professor of psychology at Henderson State University, best known as author of the book Batman and Psychology, A Dark and Stormy Night, editor, head nerd of the herd on 14 other books.
Wow.
When you start to lose track of the number, which some of these fine folks have frequently joined me. I didn't have quite enough alliteration in that sentence. I love this show. It is so much fun. It is very true to the She-Hulk comics. Not the earliest ones, but from when John Byrne took over and had her start breaking the fourth wall, onward. It has the fun. It has not just her talking to the audience, but the analysis of comics themselves. In this case, also movie storytelling in the MCU, as we know from the finale. I love the show so much.
Fantastic. Glad you're here. And also joining us is Dr. Elisabetta Di Minico. Please tell everybody a little something about what you do and how you feel about the show.
Hi, everyone. I'm Elisabetta Di Minico. I'm Italian. I teach comic history at ULM, University in Milan, and I also work for the Complutense University of Madrid as a postdoc with a research title, The Enmity of Otherness, where I analyze the representation of otherness, violence, control, and most of all, dystopia in fiction and in reality. So I'm specialized on dystopia and on a critical analysis of current issue through fiction. So I really love the show, mostly for the feminist and anti-patriarchal views that we have starting from the first episode, when she talks about how much women are used to suffer from prejudice and stereotypes and more or less violent action, so they are better than men to control anger, even if she ends the phrase and became green. But so I guess that the show started in a not weak, but it was really slow to show where it was going. But the last 2 episodes were boom, exciting, and we saw a character decide to write her own story. So we have a million point of view to analyze this from a meta-cinematographic point of view, from a feminist point of view, from a dystopian, utopian point of view. It was brilliant and really, really funny, exactly as the character.
Yeah, well, we're delighted that you're here as well. We have all kinds of expertise in the house. So Shelly, please.
Okay, so I didn't know what to ask because I felt like there was so much happening in this season finale. And as the self-proclaimed #1 fan of the Incredible Hulk, I was really happy to see he returned and that we hopefully will have some more Hulk movies. But my question to you all was, did it end the way you hoped or wanted? Or what was something you liked or disliked about the ending? Because I couldn't have predicted this at all.
So we'll try. Go ahead, Trev.
No, could not have predicted certain things. We're totally doing spoilers, right?
Yes, so absolutely.
Okay. Her breaking through the Disney plus screen. Breaking out of an icon, even a bit of there's one where she can reach the behind the scenes people. That was clever. That was brilliant. So just that simple thing is that they're talking to Kevin and it being Kevin. It's like no, there's so many things they managed to surprise and changing the story. It's like to change this on him and him. It's like it messed with me, but it was fun. It was true. It was the point of the story within the story is being true to what was going on with her personal journey. I love this finale.
How about you, Elisabetta?
Yeah, me too. I was not prepared for what I saw, actually. I was imagining something out of the ordinary, but this was too much even for me. It was great. All the Easter eggs, all the references to the X-Men. I like the part when say, where are the X-Men? And it was brilliant. I guess it was one of the most audacious, brave things that Marvel did in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And I can wait to see what will happen in season 2, if we will see other, fourth wall breaking moments as strong as this one. I guess not, actually, because more than goes outside the platform, the Disney Plus platform. I have no idea what they can do, and just they transform Kevin into the supercomputer. So not really what I was expecting. But
Deadpool is eaten up with envy.
Yeah, no, he
Deadpool
absolutely
is very envious that she got to break the fourth wall so seriously.
Yeah, and so
sorry, I talked over something you were adding there.
Yeah, and I also like the part in which she say, I don't need Hulk. I don't need my cousin. I'm here. I can handle it by myself. So I understand why Hulk was an important part of the show, but still, as I said before, she needs to write her own story. So no need for Hulk to save the day.
Yeah, I loved it when she was going over all the various the tropes that we go through in all the MCU movies and two daddy issues, and I like the way she was breaking those down. And then, then what comes next? And then as she's breaking them down, I remember asking everyone over the last couple of weeks, how do you think it's going to end? We were all looking for who's going to be the villain, right? We were all looking for those things. And you're right. She completely disrupted and told her own story. So it kind of stayed true to its feminist underpinnings all the way through. The Kevin is the knowledge enhanced visual interconnectivity nexus. I think it was absolutely brilliant to engage in a little self-deprecation as the MCU, that it's better you do it than someone else, because then you look like you're reacting. They created a whole new space for the MCU to go into, right, with just that episode, to be honest. And it was all done in the name of feminism, and it was all practicing feminism. It was stunningly well done. Any other comments in response to Shelly's question? Or what'd you think, Shelly?
I loved it. So I'm going to say initially, before it kind of went good, I was like, are you kidding me? Is this really what we're going to do? And I was watching it with my husband and I was like, ugh, I didn't like it. And I didn't want to say that because, we have this podcast and I love She-Hulk, but it was feeling like every other Marvel show, which I love, right? But I was just like, this show needed to be different and it needed to end different. And then it did. And I was I wanted to slow clap because it was really, it stayed true to who the show was, who the audience was. So yeah, I was really glad that it took that turn. I loved it.
I think it needed to start like the others so that it could, it's like, you can't exactly break the trope if you don't start off by looking like you're following it. Like Game of Thrones starts off look like it's following the tropes before it breaks them all.
Right.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think about the Daredevil issues?
I love the way she goes, well, I'm a Hulk. I smash things, including Matt Murdock. That's just good, raunchy humor. I mean, it's fantastic.
I'm a helpless romantic, but I don't see where this story could go since we are expecting Daredevil born again. So,
yeah. That's an issue we discussed when Daredevil came on the show, because they managed to have Daredevil do comedy very well. But comedy's kind of hard to come by in Hell's Kitchen, and Daredevil's part of it, right? And so Born Again, it's how do they manage the transition if they're still, if they have those two characters come together in that space. But I mean, they did it well in this show. I think they did it by letting the characters, letting the characters speak for themselves. And her finding him attractive just came out instantly in the way she talked to him. And I thought it worked really, really well. Anything else that stuck out to you guys about this episode?
I mean, the Hulk's son appeared. I feel like I have to say that.
Yes, exactly.
I mean, not to take away from Jennifer Walters, but that was something that I didn't think was going to happen. So as a Hulk fan, I was like, I hope that the Hulks are going to get their time in the sun of the Marvel universe.
Yeah, Bruce has had this whole other story going on while he's disappeared for, he's in the first two and the last one. So he was gone for 6 episodes and off taken to another world and picking up his son, who is how old? Well, if it's from before the time, 7 years, maybe. I know he grew quickly in the comics too. Yeah. So Scar might get a lot taller. We shall see. But that's a different kind of story.
It is. But I was glad that She-Hulk it was her story. Like Bruce came in at the end and she's like, done. Like, hey, he just shows up at the end. I was glad that he wasn't part of her kind of hero arc. But I was excited as a Hulk fan to see them.
Well, and now
he's just a cousin at the picnic.
Yeah, exactly. He is. And I love the way that they satisfied an expectation but violated it, because we did expect them to introduce someone new, and we thought it would be someone more, a villain or something like that. But no, it turned out to be his son. And so I like the way they just kept misdirecting our expectations. I also like the way they kept her comedy the way it's been the whole season. So when she's arguing with Kevin, he says, okay, well, we'll work on it in the movie. And she goes, really? And he goes, no.
That was so sweet.
Because she wants these things. And I love the fact that they just let her want things and, be happy when she got them, be upset when she didn't get them, and just keep moving through her life, making things happen her way. I thought that was really...
You brought up the movie thing. When she does show up in movies, even if it's an Avengers movie or whatever, will it be jarring when she's not breaking the fourth wall? I mean, it works in the comics just fine, but we get such a limited sample with the film.
You're asking a great question, because it's genre mashing, right? They've got to, what are they going to do in the movies? Like, Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness was straightforward, no fourth wall, and heroes and villains, and you throw her in the mix. They'll have a challenge because she's coming from a different genre than the MCU, at least the way it's traditionally done. So it's up to the writers and the acting and how well they can get it done. It'll be fun to see. Of course, I don't know, maybe they'll pair her up with Deadpool or, so where the comedy already exists, right? I have no idea.
But will they each be talking to different cameras? She's talking to one while he's looking at a different one.
That would be cool. I mean, Wong's even part of that comedy now too, right? I mean,
and his friend Madison.
Yeah. Well, they have to come back. We have to see them watching HBO. What was the show they were watching?
Sopranos.
The Sopranos. I almost said Goodfellas.
And while that does seem like, man, they've taken Wong in a silly direction. There were a few silly things with Wong in the first Doctor Strange movie. He's there listening to Britney Spears, for crying out loud.
Yeah. Yeah. There is a bit of silliness to him already. So what do you guys think about about how they wrote Emil Bronsky this episode? Because we talked last week, and Shelly, we both said we didn't want him to be, we didn't want him to be Abomination.
But I said he was bad, and I still feel like I was vindicated a little bit.
So do you think that they wrote, because when I watched it the second time, it felt like he's doing this thing he's not supposed to do it, yet he's not using it for violence. He's not using it. Of course, I guess he has to know who this hate group is that
he did not sound like he knew who they were. He really did not sound like he knew.
He tries to protect Jen at the end.
Yes.
When he just put her on his shoulder. It was not a way of attacking her. It was a way of protecting her. Well, what the show is showing us, sorry for the repetition, at the end is that maybe you can talk to and try to fix problems and conflicts. So maybe it wasn't, I guess it was not his intention to do bad or to harm She-Hulk. So I hope that the character will return for the season 2, and that it will not be the end of the story, just 10 years in prison for becoming again Abomination, because actually I guess he was one of the best character of the show.
What did you not see the mid-credit scene?
Did I lost?
What's the mid-credit scene?
When Wong breaks him out?
Yes.
Okay.
At the end, yeah.
Yeah, so he's not spending 10 years locked up.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, of course.
Oh, okay.
So
no, I was just thinking.
No, when
but not necessarily Wong frees him to be in the next She-Hulk series. Maybe we could see him in Doctor Strange. I have no idea.
And we don't know what his character would be. I mean, as soon as he came into the room that way and they introduced him, I said, "Oh, Shelly's not going to be happy, right?" And but then the way the scenes played out, you could make a case that, as Travis said, he didn't know this was a hate group. This is his treatment facility. But why would he be the Abomination then? Right? I mean, maybe this is his little Trojan horse kind of moment where I'll get in here as an icon of toxic masculinity, and then I'll train these guys to be better and show them their ways. And they did enough there, is what I'm saying, is when he shows up in another story, it won't be clear. I don't think it'll be clear who he is or what his goals are, motives are. Yeah, it was one character.
I'm still gonna say, as
he's bad,
long-time Hulk fan, he's a bad dude.
He's a bad dude.
Bad dude in the comics. Maybe in this iteration he won't be a bad dude, but I stand by my feelings about him.
I like that they keep us guessing.
They do.
Yes,
Comic book Abomination is an abomination. I do like that he looked more like the Abomination this time around than back when he first appeared in the movies.
Yeah. Well, we'll see.
I feel like a parallel because he's also trying to make peace with him, with the two parts of him, just like Jen. It's almost well, we're talking about two different characters with two different stories, but I see a parallel between them, and really, I didn't see him as a bad guy even at the end.
Yeah, and I think the act of saving or protecting Jen is kind of like protecting his own betterment, right? This is one of the people who pushed me to be better, and I don't know. We'll see how it plays out. It just raises a complex character they can insert into the next story. Then, and if the writers can manage it, they'll be fine. Yeah.
And while he did raise very good points, about how he was working for the government. They sent him on this mission. He was on a rampage. He was somebody who had already become a top government sniper and assassin who just showed psychopathic qualities in his first film before he got mutated. So these aren't people who become nice dudes.
Bad dude. I keep saying.
There you go. There you go. We have it. It's written. We'll see what happens. I love the comedy. I love when she's leaving. And Kevin asks, you need to return back to Jen. And she says, why? And he goes, you're very expensive. That's just that self-referential. Just, man, that's just so smart. And so fun to watch. Absolutely.
It even kind of retroactively excuses some of the things that bothered us with the CGI along the way.
Totally. As if they predicted it. You know, I mean, we were talking in the first podcast of our, in the second episode, she and her paralegal are going through all the trolling that's going on over She-Hulk on the internet. And of course, that stuff was all happening in real time, as if, you know, they predicted and put it in the script. You could very well be right. They predicted something like this and put it in the script. Yeah, very clever stuff.
I'm hoping in season 2, because it's been confirmed they're going to have season 2, that she goes to New York, because in the comics she's in New York, and I hope that maybe we see that, and maybe we see some other new characters.
I love it. They've got a great character. I mean, she can be tough, but she's also self-deprecating, right? She's got it all. And when you take a character like that into a story, it just creates all these great ways to talk about the other characters in the story, because it creates more space for them. So
I think they like, well, one, there seems to be a little bit of an LA Law comparison with them setting her in LA. But they like playing around with the celebrity side of heroism, of superheroism. And I mean, in terms of her own personal story, that was very much there. And LA is a great place to do that. Plus, the MCU, they've been trying real hard to spread out and not have everything take place in the same city that for some reason they all are in the comics. Stan looks outside his window. Let's draw that. Yeah.
There you go. Anything else that stuck out to you guys about this finale?
I like the powering of the villain, well, the supposed to be villain. It was so, at the end, he was just an angry man, eager for showing his power, a power that he doesn't have, and so it was misogynistic, but also so sad to see, because he refused to see all Jen's worth, and it's something that goes behind the fact that she's a woman. It was all the insecurity that the character has that was particular.
Yeah, they turned him into a sad little man. You know, of course, he kind of was acting one the whole show. But then to be smart enough to take Pug and put him in there as the fly on the wall, that was just some of the best comedy, you know. Just use the word female, you know,
and
female.
Just in terms of storytelling, having Pug be unable to think of terrible things to say, where it's the woman who's telling him to say these things. Yeah, that was a very good way of delivering it. He's doing the act, but it's not in his character. Like if he were able to think of these things, where is it in him that he's pulling this stuff from? It's like, nope, it just wasn't in him.
No, you're right, and that was actually a very, very good way to do that. And then it lets her feed him the lines from outside on the phone or the microphone, walkie-talkie, or whatever she was doing. But
that duo was brilliant. All the scene, it was great, because it was an easy way to show how this kind of reasoning work. Actually, like the female, when she said this, as you remind, female instead of women. Is that revenge porn, catcalling, misogynistic actions are perpetrated not just by evil men. It's something more complicated. And even if it's a sitcom, it was really great to show all that there is behind. It's a patriarchal system that hurts women and men at the same time. Because we are both victims of gender roles, stereotypes, constructions of how women and men should act and should feel about each other.
Agreed.
Especially because he wanted to date her. So, you know, you know, from my own personal sort of research, teaching stuff, it's like, of course, it's this guy she like dated. Or tried to, you know, wanted to date her. And that made complete sense that he was the one doing that.
It did make complete sense. So let me ask you guys this. They've got this fantastic character. We talked about this a little bit, but one of the things we love to do is just run simulations on what's next, right? So what do you guys imagine they might try to accomplish with this character in a season 2? That's a rough one. And I mean, it could.
Good question.
All right, I can write the time down and I can get rid of that.
Yeah, most of these stories, it's like, what could they do in the future? I've gotten in the habit of that hangs so much on what so many people might feel like doing. There's not a way to guess. So I actually don't speculate. I'll speculate on a story I'm watching right now, but on what other story could be, it's like, I don't know. Whatever they feel like.
So I do think that in the next series, of course, she won't be working so much on being whole. That would seem to be sort of Act 1, right? And this was almost like the season was an origin story, right? And Act 1, she knows who she is now. I guess working as a superhero team might be the major issue and what that means. And then suddenly she's in Daredevil's world brooding about the use of violence, right? I mean, you know, because when she was being violent in this series, there was no hesitation. She was grinning from ear to ear. She had found a new power and she was using it with no self-doubt. And, you know, when you stay in that space long enough, we've seen characters then suddenly, oh my God, what am I doing? And blah, 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 blah. So that might be one route they could go. And if she shows up in Hell's Kitchen, there'll be plenty of people to team up with and have that discussion.
So I said this like the very first episode, but I'm going to say it again. I really want another female superhero to come and her interact with them in a really positive way and not be adverse to each other. I want them to team up. It could be Hellcat. It could be Squirrel Girl. It could be somebody new that we haven't had, you know, much, we haven't heard a lot of, but that's what I want to happen. I don't know that that will happen, but I'm going to keep saying it and putting it into the world.
So
Hellcat has had some series in the comics that are very much compatible with this kind of storytelling. And well, you know, she can have her redemption from where she wound up in Jessica Jones. And let's put her in her gold and blue costume. Daredevil got gold and red. Let's go with her with full yellow and blue.
Exactly.
I would have her called Hellcat. They are, even if they're making fun of the names, they are owning them. I was so surprised to see I'm so happy to see the porcupine.
Oh God, I love it.
Yeah, it was fantastic. I would love to see an interaction between She-Hulk and Jessica Jones.
I was just asking you about that. How do you feel about this idea?
Well, they're
not about Matt. They have to pass the Bechdel test.
There you go. They're both feminist stories. One's in a noir framework and one's more in a lawyer comedy framework. So I think they could find enough space there. I think there's enough sarcasm in Jessica Jones's character to get some comedy in there. And I think there's enough self-doubt in She-Hulk's character to get a little Jessica Jones brooding going on. And it could be a pretty cool team up.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Would be great.
I'm just a big Jessica Jones fan. That's all.
That is brand new information.
Brand new information.
Didn't
Never heard
know
before.
about it.
Didn't know about that.
No
Absolutely.
clue.
Anything else about the show overall?
What about the opening with an
Oh my
homage
gosh.
to
Retro fantastic.
Oh,
I
that
loved
was
it.
fantastic.
Fantastic.
I'm so glad you brought that up. I loved it. And so I grew up watching the Hulk show, and I loved that. That was such a nice
Bill
nod.
Bixby.
Yeah.
I have to say Bill Bixby whenever you mention that show, because everybody talks about Lou Ferrigno and wait a minute, there was a Bruce. I interrupted you, Shelly. I'm sorry.
No, it's fine. I just I watched it. I read the comics growing up, and then the show was really cool because it came to life. It came to life.
Yes.
We didn't have the Marvel movies and stuff, at that time. And so seeing it with She-Hulk, it was awesome. And I was thinking to myself, I wish this would have been an actual show when I was little to watch.
With a live action She-Hulk in there, although that was a dude.
Yeah.
It was.
Yeah.
It was.
Yeah, really.
Yeah.
But that's
Well,
also a
She-Hulk-
70s thing, right?
I mean, She-Hulk got created because of that TV show.
It's awesome.
She got created over an ownership issue because if Marvel hadn't, Universal was going to create a female Hulk character within their show. It's Stan and the others are like, okay, we've got to land this. We've got to own the female Hulk before they do, or make up something. But that's where she started.
No, it's fantastic.
Honestly, to me, that homage to the old TV show was the biggest surprise of the episode.
Yeah.
It was. And the minute you came on and you recognized what it was, you knew it was smart. You knew it was cool. And it was just, okay, they got me again. I wasn't anticipating this at all. And I love being outthought that way. Right.
Well, it is so, when you've seen so many of these movies and TV shows, it's hard for them to surprise us.
Yes, it is.
So when they can surprise me without cheating, I love it.
Exactly. So let me ask you this, just speculation on the show we just watched. How much do you think Kevin Feige was actually involved? Do you think he was nothing but a rubber stamp at certain points? Because this is one of the better self-deprecating series I've ever seen any corporation do. And they're making fun of Kevin in a sense when they did that. So what are your guys' thoughts on?
Well, he's the one who suggested they could use Daredevil.
Yeah.
And so there's certain things, like when you'll find out that he's the one who suggested that they could use Kingpin in the Hawkeye series. It's like they hadn't decided who the big bad would be. It's like, it should be Kingpin. It's like, we can use Kingpin. And Jessica Gao has said they had some of those kind of moments, so they'll have a whole lot of other things planned. But the thing about Kevin at the end, they had gone through and they'd planned it out. When they're showing him, they're all wearing caps like his when they have the meeting, and they show him, and they have an actual cap on the AI robot, and he didn't get the joke. He's like, don't put a cap on a robot. So they altered it to have something cap-like on there. So it sounds like they'll form their plans. He'll wander in, throw some bombs their way, and wander back out.
Yeah. Well, if he actually, green-lighted it and knew these things were going to happen, it's just a stroke of brilliance to let a creative person do what they do. And it does seem to be what they're doing with these MCU series, right? These Marvel series is letting writers do their thing. And that's another great way to do diversity, right? Just let people do storytelling in different ways. One of the strengths, potential weaknesses of Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness was they turned it over Sam Raimi, and it became a horror story that required Wanda be carried a certain way through the whole narrative. I don't, for Raimi to get what he wanted, it's almost as if she had to be treated that way as a character. So it's risky to just give it over, but that's how you get creativity. That's how you get sparks, and that's how you prevent yourself, from becoming stale. And
it's a tough balance when they've give them the freedom to tell their story while it still needs to fit in with the big picture. That's what had happened with Edgar Wright and Ant-Man. He finally broke away because they just had too many restrictions when he wanted to tell his original Ant-Man story within their sandbox. And maybe later on, now maybe the way they do it now, he'd have had more freedom to do what he wanted, or maybe not. It's like, with what happens with Wanda in Doctor Strange in the Multiverse. Well, we're still trying to keep it tied to She-Hulk, but we are on, it's like how the treatment of female characters. And it's in terms of the big picture, those of us who love WandaVision, it's like, what the hell are you doing with her? In terms of that Doctor Strange story within itself, it made sense. In terms of the big picture of that character arc, it just ticked some of us off.
It was well, we've talked about that whole thing quite a bit, right?
Yeah, we're how far do we wander from She-Hulk? Hey, She-Hulk, Wanda, they're great characters.
Well, what I do love about the conversation is this idea of creating worlds and collectively creating worlds, and who gets to say yes, who gets to say no, and what are the possibilities that get created when suddenly Jessica Zagao is the executive writer, and something comes to be that no one else would have made happen. I love those. I'd love to be a fly on the wall in those conversations, because that's where the narrative power plays are made, right? Because someone's going to say yes and someone's going to say no, because these things are so damn expensive to make. And as you said, Travis, right, there's so many threads that have to be together. And then, oh my God, I'm scattered now, but I love the fact that she says, no, these are my stakes. When Jen says, these are my stakes. Yes. That brought it back to Mary Tyler Moore for me, man, right? This was Mary Tyler Moore in the MCU. If you ever watched Mary Tyler Moore, right? It was her story, her friends. Yeah. Anyway, there's narrative powers being meted out in these behind the scenes conversations. And there's a story there, right? About how narratives get created and controlled, particularly in the commercial world where these things are made.
Yeah. And as I've said before, but I'll say it again, not everything has to be super serious all the time for it to be enjoyable, for people to connect. And I think this show in particular showed Marvel fans, like, we don't have to have this super serious thing. We can laugh, we can have fun. We had it before with other ones, but not with a female being the lead. And women are funny. So I need people to acknowledge that.
I'll say women can be really good comedians. I'm not going to ever say women are funny. And
well, you know what I mean.
Get out of here and put it. I'm just teasing.
Yeah, pull that clip out. Here's the soundbite of Scott going, "Women are funny."
That will go viral, and
that'll be me now that I've done that. No, the show had humor and it had heart.
Yes,
it didn't just go like the scary movie level of the Top Gun, or not Top Gun, what the parody was, but the Naked Gun level of silly, where you're not invested in the humanity of those characters. It has humor, very much so, and it has heart. It has the humanity of those characters. It's like the old Quantum Leap had humor and heart. But that's a topic for another day if somebody thinks it's what's seriously missing from the new Quantum Leap. But
I really like what you just said,
because it was a good mix of everything, because we saw a character that is funny, silly, independent, sexy, fragile. So it's really human.
Yes, very much so.
All the description that we receive of the character are extremely human, and that's great. We saw the superhero part, and also actually I guess the story could be like a coming of age superhero edition. We saw a character that is a little bit confused about her, also her body, her position in the story. At the end of the season, she knows who she is. So maybe the second season will be a more complete. We'll see a more complete story with a well-defined superheroine, actually, not superhero.
Well,
yeah, now that you go ahead, Travis. Go ahead.
We cared about her the entire time from the first moment of the first episode. It's like the recent Werewolf by Night special. It's a few minutes in before I knew who to care about. I love that special, but it's like it's a few minutes in before with her immediately when she's talking to us, she's saying some things. She's immediately capturing us. We care about her all along the way.
And I also love the fact that she could be very sarcastic, but she was not cynical, right? The show was not cynical, and that allows me to stay in it. Because if you know, sarcasm that becomes cynicism is just the writers don't like me. They don't like people, and I just can't do that for very long.
At the end of the day, it's a really optimistic show.
Yeah, it is. You know, I can see her because this. If you look at this as the first act of a 3-act, I can see something happening in the second season where, you know, she ends this season kind of knowing who she is, and then she goes into some team ups or something, like I said earlier, but she does something that she regrets, right? Because that would be the gloom and doom of the second act, right? And then season 3 would be yet another transformation and an integration of the consequences of being a superhero who does things that are violent and leads to unintended consequences. Of course, maybe Kevin came up with that and told me to say that to you guys. Yeah. Any final comments on the series or on the finale?
She-Hulk smash.
Particularly Daredevil. All right, then. So, Elisabetta, please tell the audience where they can find you on social media.
On Facebook, I'm Elisabetta Di Minico, and same for Instagram. That are the two social media I use the most. Fantastic.
How about you, Travis?
Yeah, in fact, I just found you on Facebook earlier during this recording.
Yes.
There you go.
I'm a hermit. I'm not on social media anywhere. I am at Superherologist, one of the 10 most followed psychologists on Twitter, and I got tired of Twitter a long time ago. Honestly, Facebook is where we have some of the most interesting discussions. I'm easy to just look for Travis Langley. I'm easy to find online. The best place to look on Amazon or wherever fine books are sold.
Fine books are sold. Fantastic. How about you, Shelly?
I'm at Dr. Clevenger on Twitter.
Fantastic. You can find all episodes of She-Hulking on YouTube at the Dark Loops Productions channel. If you want to write in, tell us what we got right, tell us what we got wrong, write it on this YouTube page or send an email to darkloopsproductions@gmail.com, and we'll be sure to get back together and read it and argue about what you wrote. Travis, Elisabetta, thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you so much, Scott, for having us.
Fantastic conversation. Shelly, it has been an absolute blast podcasting this show with you.
Oh my God, it has. I love it, Scott. It's been great.
Me too. It's been great. And we usually do this on a Sunday morning, and it's just a great way to start a weekend day. And the conversations we've had, if I ever teach a course on She-Hulk, I'll definitely have the students watching these podcasts. Okay, so there it is. From all of us to all of you, big hugs, and remember, smash the
patriarchy.
Bye-bye.
Bye.